Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm going to react to the Irish potato famine. Why? It's just one of those things that we learned of in school, but I feel like it was kind of brushed over. I feel like it was a way bigger catastrophic event than I understood when I was in school, and they just kind of, they're like, oh, then in 1845, Irish potato famine, a lot of people died, and moving on. And it just kind of popped in my head today. I was like, I want to know more about that potato. Everybody wanted potatoes and there weren't any. How is that big of a deal? I'm going to find out. So, and it's thanks to Simple History. I mean, this channel, it's a small and up-and-coming YouTube channel, guys. They don't even have 5 million subs yet. So go check them out. Obviously, legendary YouTube channel. Let's go.
Through 1850.
Whoa.
The Irish potato famine,
Yes.
1845 through 1852.
7 years. It's a long time, folks.
In 1845, in Ireland, the potato crops were failing and potato plants were turning black and rotten. The cause was potato blight, or more specifically the fungus Phytophthora infestans, caused by the wind, rain, and insects. It spread throughout Europe, but hit Ireland the hardest.
That's crazy, huh? It's crazy how something like that can just happen out of nowhere. Everything's fine. Then all of a sudden, nature does some weird shit and the wind starts carrying a disease across all the potatoes. But it's like, why do you need potatoes? Are your diets really that reliant on potatoes?
This would be known as the Great Famine, or the Great Hunger. By 1845, the potato, which was originally brought into Ireland by the landed gentry, was Ireland's most important crop. Almost half of Ireland's population, mainly the rural poor, were dependent on potatoes to live.
Wow. I mean, I guess, you got to put yourself in a different headspace. It's a different time. 1845. They depended on potatoes to live. I do know, at least I learned, someone said once, that the potato has every nutrient the human body needs to survive. You know what I mean? Like, indefinitely. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be in, like, peak health if that's all you eat, but it is something. If you were, like, trapped on an island and God was like, hey, what crop do you want me to grow? Potato is I think it's a good one.
Average Irishman ate 14 pounds of potatoes a day. They grew well in Ireland's climate.
Holy crap.
And even in poor soil and in wet and cold conditions. Potatoes were nutritious, a great source of vitamin C, and their harvest was plentiful, so there was enough to feed families, and farmers had enough surplus to feed their livestock. The Irish were overly reliant on one variety of potato called the Irish lumper. This lack of variation put Ireland at high risk of mass famine.
Damn. That's crazy. That's just crazy to me. I don't know. There's something. It's like in hindsight, that's just kind of human nature. People, they might have even known the risk. Maybe they didn't. But people just don't act on it until it's too late. It's like, oh, well, yeah, that was a bad idea. But it's not really an idea either. It's just like, that's just the way it was. They relied on this potato.
When blight hit the potato plant, it may look edible from the outside, but it was a slimy pulp inside. It would soon appear rotten and shriveled once the fungal spores settled on the plant, which spread to healthy potato plants around it quickly through the breeze. The smell was so revolting that it could make a person vomit, and eating an infected potato would leave them in agony.
Wow. My goodness, this is bad. This is really bad. I'm thinking right now, I wonder if people tried to construct, like a greenhouse or something to shield their potatoes from the wind. Maybe that's not practical, I'm sure, on like a large scale.
The sources for the blight may have been the United States, arriving through ships coming to Europe. A strain of blight was seen in 1843 on America's eastern seaboard, but going further back, the pathogen could be traced to Mexico. Great Britain had the richest empire in the world at this time, and
so it's kind of my fault. I mean, everybody knows, what your ancestors did, that's your fault. But in this case, you know, the Americans brought over a freaking bug, a disease on a ship. Oh my God. It's crazy to me. Crazy.
And had an oppressive rule over Ireland. For the first year of the famine, there was little death from hunger. British Prime Minister Sir Robert Peel imported corn or maize from the United States. However, there weren't enough mills to ground it, and the poor couldn't afford it. As well as this, the Irish peasants' diet of potatoes made the corn unsatisfactory. Unlike potatoes, it lacked vitamin C, so dependence on corn resulted in scurvy.
See? Other crops you can't live on. It's actually kind of fascinating. I didn't realize, you know, I knew that fact about potatoes, that you could live on them. But the Irish actually freaking did it. It didn't work out, but they did it for a while.
Some Irish got used to the cornmeal. There was not enough to go around. Surprisingly, even as things got worse, grain and other foods were still being exported to Great Britain during the famine. Lord John Russell took power as Prime Minister in June 1846 and formed a Whig government. It took a laissez-faire approach, which meant minimal government involvement in the economics of Ireland.
It kind of sounds like bad timing. I'm just going to say. Laissez-faire, you know, that's all great and all, but this might be the time where you need the government to do something.
The British government looked down upon the Irish as less than human and their potato crops as lazy, suggesting that they needed to unlearn dependency on the government. The Protestant evangelical belief that the famine was an act of providence, a divine judgment, also justified inaction.
What? Yikes, I've never heard that before. Wow.
Charles Trevelyan, a civil servant with direct...
People back in the day were really ruthless, huh? Like, in kind of a stupid way. I mean, let's just be honest. I don't know how many people are alive today that still believe that, you know, that, like, yeah, that famine was an act of God on you people because you're lazy. It's just like, oh my God. People back then were really mean.
Direct responsibility for the government's handling of the famine was a big supporter of this idea. The British government opened soup kitchens in 1847, which fed over 3 million starving Irish peasants, but they closed them down after 6 months. They also continued to export food that could have fed the starving Irish population, as they did not want to interfere in the business of the English landowners. Public work schemes were also introduced to provide employment, but malnourishment made hard labor extremely difficult for workers. Most of the Irish were Catholics, and half did not own the land they worked on. Instead, they were renting and working on tiny plots of land for English landowners.
This is a freaking disaster. This actually just makes it really impressive how Ireland is so flourishing today. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this wasn't that long ago. 175 years. And this is a disaster.
Many who were absentee landlords who lived in Britain, not Ireland. Because of the famine, Irish peasants fell behind on their rents and were evicted. Their houses were often demolished to prevent them coming back. Many went to the overcrowded workhouses, where disease like typhoid was rampant, as well as death from starvation.
Workhouses.
Famine-related
I don't even know what that is, but you don't want to be there.
Diseases killed many of those suffering, a cause of a weakened immunity from malnutrition. Those that were evicted from the lands and had nothing to eat could be seen dying or dead in ditches along roads. Many committed crimes, stealing food or trying to get caught on purpose in an attempt to be sent to jail or a penal colony like Australia.
I was going to say, that's freaking brilliant. That is brilliant. Commit a crime to be sent to Australia. I mean, I know now that the trip to Australia, if you were already malnourished, you would probably die on the way there. But in theory, on paper, that is a really great idea. It's kind of like Americans over here committing crimes to get free health care in jail. There's been a couple people do that.
Where they might be fed. By the time the potato crops recovered in 1852, 1 to 2
That's actually kind of crazy, isn't it? The incentive, or the, you know, the punishment for committing a crime becomes an incentive to commit a crime. That's how bad things were. It's like, well, I might as well go commit a bunch of crimes, because if I don't get caught, well, I mean, of course, morals stand in the way of this. I get that. But it's like, if I don't get caught, well, then I get to eat all the stuff I stole. If I do get caught, I get sent to Australia, and they'll feed me.
2 million
Better than dying.
Irish left the homeland and emigrated, some to Britain and many to North America, where many died on the coffin ships during the journey from hunger and disease. The Irish refugees that reached the east coast of the United States established themselves in cities like Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. The Great Famine was one of the
Amazing.
worst times in Irish history and left 1 million dead. The Irish population had dramatically declined, with 1/4 dead or emigrated, spurring a century-long population decline.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. What a great video, too. Go check out Simple History. I love learning more in depth about, well, actually, just history in general to me is more and more interesting as I'm now an old man. It's more and more interesting. I'm like, I should have paid better attention during school. This shit's actually pretty crazy. It's like the story of the actual planet and people that live on this planet with us. You know, it's like all the people, what they did. Pretty crazy stories. Honestly, crazier than fiction. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Same place. All right.